It's giving incest. When were you married? Traditions that were built on fear and built on a sense of ownership over somebody else. I'm never getting married. I don't want to be in a relationship. F that. Choosing what makes you happy. So many of the rules that we're told to follow. In fact, I think all of them, they're imaginary. They're not real. We made that shit up. It's so restrictive and so unfair to us as individuals as well as us as a collective because it's fucking boring. If everyone's doing the same thing, it's boring. Do you hear that? That's the sound of the beads in my hair. You hear who this? You hear who this? It's me. It's me. Hello, my name is Ayomide and welcome back to the I Am Midnight Experience. If this is your first time here, welcome. I hope you stay a while. I'm really happy to have you here. So let's get into it. I know the title might be a bit misleading and you guys are like, what is she talking about? All the guys that she's loved and no, like this is not some kind of love letter like the movie to all the guys I've loved. It's actually about this K-drama right here. To all the guys who loved me, and the big theme in it that really resonated with me and that I think would just be like nice to speak on and speak about, just because, you know, it gave what it needed to give and it was just good stuff. So without further ado, let's get into it.
Yeah, get into it.
This K-drama, To All the Guys Who Love Me, which I recently learned has like two alternate titles. One is Men Are Men. I don't know. I think it's kind of a fitting title, but at the same time I feel like To All the Guys Who Love Me makes sense. I mean, it's true, men are men, but I don't know if that fits what the K-drama is about, which I'll tell you in a bit. And the other title is This Guy is the Guy. Which apparently is the literal English translation. That makes more sense. That one, This Guy is the Guy. That one makes more sense. I just think those two alternate titles are very funny though, because it's literally men are men, this guy is the guy. But on Netflix, and like I think the official title is To All the Guys Who Love Me, which I think makes more sense. And although a significant other or partner or a man is still kind of like centered in the title, it brings it back to the female protagonist and it's less about the men in the K-drama, which I think is important because that's what the K-drama is anyway. So the official synopsis for this K-drama given on Netflix is: two men vie for the love of an aspiring webtoon writer who was sworn off marriage and declared herself as her only life partner. Given very simple because there's also a mystic element to the K-drama in that it brings in like past lives and how that kind of intertwines with present lives is very interesting. And then also one of the men that's vying for her love is basically her brother, and it's a bit like it's giving incest. But at the same time, when I say he's technically her brother, it's more like her brother. Her parents took him in when he was a teenager after his mum died. So it's not like they grew up together, but at the same time, you know, they grew up together. But this guy did kind of like her since before he basically became family. Do you know what I mean? So, you know, there's some gray areas, but we let it slide. But altogether, it's literally so hilarious and I would highly recommend it because besides the romance and the comedy, the overall message on marriage is something that resonates so deeply with me, and I think it's such an important topic to bring up with society today. And the ending subverts a lot of the way romance K-dramas tend to end, and which I really like, and which brings me on to what I want to talk about: marriage. The main protagonist, Seonju, doesn't want to get married, and at the beginning, you know, she says that it's because no one has ever really made her heart flutter. She feels that she's never really been in love with any of the guys that she's been with. And then there's also this whole thing with how like She ends up remembering her past lives when she's a child. She slips into a coma. During that coma, all like her past lives come flashing back to her. And when she wakes up from her coma, she's like, yeah, nah, I'm never getting married. I don't even want to be in a relationship. F that. No. No, ma'am. Even though like her parents take her to a psychiatrist and she ends up forgetting her past lives and stuff and it ends up being a thing of the past. She's still adamant about really not wanting to get married, and like I said, she feels that it's because she's never really been in love with any of the guys that she's been with. None of them have made her feel that, and she thinks that there's something wrong with her heart and that there's no point of, you know, wanting that. And to be honest, like, she's a lot more dedicated to her career and her dream of wanting to be a webtoon writer. So, you know, it's a K-drama. Naturally, she's gonna end up with a guy who makes her heart flutter, a guy who makes her feel all the feelings. And I remember, like, when I was watching it, I was like, please don't disappoint me and like be one of those ones where the person's like, yeah, I'm never gonna get married, you know, like don't have the love of my life. And then they find the person who they think is the love of their life and then they end up changing their mind. I was like, that's gonna be so disappointing and so cliche. Come on, we can do better than that. But at the same time, I was just ready to be disappointed, especially because the guy that she ends up with did want marriage, and I was just like, oh no, like, is she gonna go back on what she said? And because there was so much pressure from everyone around her, especially her parents, to get married, but that doesn't happen. You don't get married. And I was like, yes, because it was time for something different. And a lot of the things that she said about why she didn't want to get married, I felt it. And it made sense, and I was like, it would be sending the wrong message to anyone who may have felt that way, that, yeah, just conform and just get married, just do what everyone says that you should be doing, do you know what I mean? And I was just glad that they didn't go down that route. And now I'm going to move on to like how it talks about marriage and how I feel about the whole institution of marriage. But first I'm going to like read you guys the quote that ends the K-drama, literally the last thing said in the final episode. As love can't last forever, people were forced to create a system called marriage. Some people say marriage completes love, but there is no right answer. It doesn't matter which path you choose. You just have to choose a path that makes you happy. And when we, referring to her and her mans, stand at the end of the path we chose, I won't care how people will perceive us, because he'll have become my forever lover, friend, and family. Isn't that just the sweetest thing you ever heard? I mean, it's very sweet, very cute, and I love this K-drama for doing that, for ending that way, and for going against the tide in terms of when it comes to marriage. And I like that it pointed that out. With things like that, it's about choosing what makes you happy, and knowing that the path that seems to be set out for you, that seems to be the normal, what everyone does, is not what you have to do. We have these situations, these institutions, or like these societal norms, these imaginary rules that people say, this is just how it's done, this is what everyone is supposed to. But each individual person, even though you can have similarities with somebody else, have so much in common with other people and stuff, you know, this person might remind you of that person, we're all still like so different. And to have these arbitrary rules that often don't feel arbitrary and literally feel like an albatross around your fucking neck, telling you what you're supposed to do because that's how it's been, I just think it's so restrictive and so like unfair to us as individuals as well as us as a collective, because it's fucking boring. If everyone's doing the same thing, it's boring. And in terms of marriage, I'm gonna say this now, I'm not sure if the institution of marriage, if I want to get married, period. What I mean is, if I was to be in any kind of relationship, marriage wouldn't be something that I would be looking at as the end goal. It's not something that I see as something that we need to do. Now, I would never say never, because I know the kind of person I am. I know that my mind might change, but basically I wouldn't date someone who was dating to marry or who thought that, yeah, marriage was the thing that needed to solidify a relationship, because I don't believe that. And I also wouldn't date someone who felt like they could be the one to change my mind on that. Just don't do that, because you will fail and you will end up hurting yourself. It's not something that I want right now or in the future, but even if I do change my mind and decide to get married, it won't be because I think that's what completes the love that I have for that person, or it won't be because I think that's the end goal, at that like stamp of approval on a relationship. it will be because it's like the best thing for us to do legally, or we decided, you know what, fuck it, let's just do it for our family and our friends. Because for me, it's just like marriage isn't everything. And when I say fuck it, let's just do it for our family and friends, I believe that marriage, or at least a wedding ceremony, because marriage is different. And I know so many people say that, you know, like the work really begins after you get married and stuff. But it's like, why do I have to get married? Like, anyway, I think that a wedding, and yeah, actually that label of we're married, this is my wife, this is my husband, this is my whatever name you choose for the person that you've married, it's for other people. It's for everybody outside of your relationship, because you two should already know how committed you are to one another. I don't think you need that label of marriage or of married for you guys to prove how committed you are to one another, or for you guys to say that, you know, this is someone who I see as a long-term partner and someone who I want in my life forever. And that label of marriage is just so that other people put respect on you guys' names. You already know you guys are in that relationship. You know what kind of commitment you have to one another. You know what like dynamics of relationship are. And I think a wedding, the ceremony, the party literally is just for everyone to jaye, so that other people understand how committed you two are to one another. But really, if you don't care about that, if that doesn't matter to you, which really kind of shouldn't, but then sometimes you have to play the rules of the game because that's just the way the game is. But like, if that doesn't matter to you, then you don't need that label of marriage. Like, it's not necessary. And I feel like it's this thing that, because it is more for the people outside of the individuals that are actually in the marriage, there are so many pressures that kind of come with it from the people outside of the marriage, because you now have the label of marriage on your relationship. I don't know if I'm making sense, but at the same time, I know I'm making sense. Why should your relationship all of a sudden take this different form because of a piece of paper? Why do I need the label of marriage, or why do we need to get married for you to believe that I take us and us being life partners seriously? It's the same way that it's like, why not then? Because if it doesn't really mean that much, then why not just do it? Do you know what I mean? And that's why, like, I'm saying that if I was to change my mind and I did want to get married, it wouldn't be because I'm expecting things to change all of a sudden in terms of my relationship to whomever I am with, but because, for example, in terms of like legalities and stuff, I know that there are some benefits to being married and having that label on your relationship. I'm not trying to kind of like belittle the institution of marriage, because so many people fought for the right to do that, and it's everyone's right. And just as it's everyone's right to get married if they want to, it should be everyone's right to not get married if that's something they don't want to do. And I feel like, especially in like hetero relationships, that is very pressured, especially if you're a woman. And especially if you're a woman of a specific age and of a specific ethnic background. You reach a certain age, you're like, when were you married? Do you have boyfriends? Yeah, you know, all of those things. What I'm ultimately just trying to say is that I think people should be able to choose their own paths and choose how they want their relationships to be formed and what it means for them. For me, I am willing to have a different kind of commitment ceremony, something different from like, you know, a formal marriage to prove my commitment. Not to prove my commitment, but to just like solidify, like I'm willing to like take an oath and stuff and all of that. And I know you're like, oh, what's the point? Like, just get married. But it's different. I feel like some of the things I'm saying more apply to heterosexual relationships, to cisgender heterosexual I can't even say it. To cisgender heterosexual relationships. But I was reading this book, which is a fabulous book, The Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo. A character in the book has this woman that she loves, and it's in a time when it's still illegal to get married, but also like incredibly stigmatized to just be gay, to be queer, to be homosexual. But they decide to have their own ceremony, their own thing, and they do it without anyone there, in bed together. They do vows and stuff. I take you as my wife, I take you as my wife, and it's really beautiful. And they didn't need to do that in front of anyone. They knew like their commitment. They referred to each other with those labels. Like if they could have gotten married, I'm sure they would have. So it's kind of different. But what I'm saying is the formal institution of marriage and the legalities are not necessary. And I don't think we should put so much importance on that as being the thing that makes a relationship official, you know? Especially because people can just go and say, people can just get a divorce like that, and then all of a sudden it doesn't mean anything. Whereas I think like your own ceremony where you guys choose what your commitments are, you choose your own part, what works for you guys. I think that's so much more beautiful and so much more meaningful. And that happens in the K-drama. Like, they choose a different path. They decide not to get married, but they have like a commitment ceremony, and you know, they do it again to the outside world. They let everyone know, you know, this is who I want to be with for the rest of my life. I'm not getting married to them. There's no legal papers. There's nothing. Like, we are not married, but this is my life partner. This is my forever lover, my forever family, my forever. Oh, you're so cute. But yeah, like that. I would love to do that, you know? Thinking back to, you know, the legal aspects of marriage on your relationship. Let me just say, in terms of heterosexual relationships, cisgender heterosexual relationships, men benefit more than women do. It's actually wild. It's so funny because in terms of like films and stuff, we tend to see how they'll show that the man is the one that's hesitant to get married and the girl wanted to. It's so funny because once it finally happens, and if they do get married, it's the man that's gonna benefit more. In an article written on the site P.S. I Love You by Renata Gomes, she says that married men are happier and healthier than their unmarried counterparts. Their careers also benefit, and married men are more likely than unmarried men to be in the top 1% of earners. See what, guys, I'm telling you, like, a lot of the things that that we're like, yes, this is a life goal, this is what you're supposed to do, we're supposed to get there, it's a scam. It's a scam. She also goes on to say, on the other hand, women's health doesn't improve significantly with marriage. In fact, women's health is much more tied to the quality of the marriage. While even bad marriages seem to benefit men, women's health suffers a bigger impact than men's if the marriage is bad. In a Forbes article written by Avery Blank, she says that a new study found that married men in the US are more likely than single men to be among the nation's top 1% of earners. The reason for this may be that men benefit more from the unpaid labor women provide. You know, again, I don't even know if there's any point in me saying anything. I'm just gonna look at you guys because I feel like these are speaking for themselves. And this unpaid labor that it's speaking about is referring to like the emotional labor that women often have to do in their house as well as housework. So I'm just saying that it's something to think about if you're going to be in a heterosexual relationship and you are thinking about marriage, that it does tend to benefit men more than it does women. That could be changed, kind of looking at society and trying to topple the patriarchy and all that kind of thing. But at the same time, just the institution of marriage itself is not as it is not as on sound ground as it may have once seemed like it was. I don't know if it really was, but whatever. And lastly, an article from The Independent written by Henry Austin says that the research conducted by the University College London, the London School of Economics and the London School of Hygiene and Tropical Medicine found unmarried men suffered more negative health effects than single women. Can you imagine? So being single as a woman tends to be more beneficial to your health than being a married woman, whereas being a single man is not as beneficial to your health, tends to be less beneficial to your health than being a married man. Hey, good. This life, yeah? So honestly, if anyone's trying to pressure you, if anyone's trying to make you follow a path that seems to be the path often most tread or whatever, but it's not something that you want to do and you are happy with the way things are for you, just do your best to stand your ground and choose your own path. Because like someone tweeted, you know, tradition is just peer pressure from dead people, and we don't need that. Like, we are the living, we're still living, so let's just break traditions that, you know, just don't, I was gonna say they don't make us happy, but traditions that were built on fear and built on a sense of ownership over somebody else. You know, break those cages or whatever. Ultimately, what I'm trying to say is everyone should be able to choose their own path. If you want to get married, yo, do it. I just wanted to bring up the conversation and talk about it, especially after watching this K-drama, because a lot of romantic K-dramas will tend to end in marriage, but I'm starting to see more that will literally talk about how the K-dramas end in marriage, but you know, does happily ever after actually really exist, or like does that happen? I'm seeing a lot of K-dramas that are like starting to subvert it, and you know, I love talking about K-dramas, so the fact that I talked about something that I have been thinking about for like a couple of years now, I had to talk about it. I had to speak it out. I just want to say again that definitely watch To All the Guys Who Loved Me, especially if you're interested in kind of finding out how the story plays out and how they deal with the aspects of past lives and how that interacts with the present lives. And also because this K-drama touches on loads of other taboos or just things that have always existed in society, but then we were told that they were bad, and so now that people are doing it more openly and without shame, like, oh my god, this is new, but really isn't. In the K-drama, one of the main character, Sonju, has 3 friends, and one of her friends is a divorcee, but then she ends up dating her ex-husband again, and at the same time dating a guy that's significantly younger than her, and she dates them at the same time. She lets them know, yo, look, I'm dating both of you. You know, it's like light polyamory going on, and it's very interesting, very funny how that plays out. And another one of the friends, she's been single for a very long time, or if not like always or whatever. And again, there's the whole pressure of like, when are you gonna get a man, and you know, when will you marry? Why aren't you dating anyone? And at first you see her kind of getting upset and kind of always just wanting to like wanting guys to speak to her, and then she comes to the realization that she actually doesn't care about being in a relationship or being with a man or marriage. The reason why it has been upsetting her is not the marriage thing, it's not the life partner thing, but the fact that she wants kids. She's like, do I really need a boyfriend? Do I really need a husband to have kids? And the answer is no. So the way the K-drama deals with that and the kind of complications that come with that, again, just very interesting. Having that kind of like representation I just think is really nice, and just really nice to show how differently people live their lives and that it's allowed, because so many of the rules that we're told to follow are in fact, I think all of them, they're imaginary, they're not real. We made that shit up. And sometimes because of the powers that be, we may have to follow some of them, and some of them, you know, we like them. And that's cool. Like if you like it and it does well for you, play on, do your thing. But if you don't like it, you know, kick that door down and say, I want to do that. And I just think people should have the freedom to be able to do that. Life is varied. Marriage isn't everything. Marriage shouldn't have to be the be all and end all, the officiator of a relationship. People should be able to choose the paths that they want for their lives. People should be able to do what they want. But anyway, thank you so much for watching. Thank you for being here. Thank you if you made it all the way to the end. I appreciate you. Let me know if you watched All the Guys Who Love Me. Let me know if there's any K-dramas that you would like me to watch and then maybe like talk about, because I'll be happy to do that. I appreciate you so much. Thank you for coming to my TED Talk. Let me know what you think about the institution of marriage and what you think about relationships and the pressures and expectations that are upon relationships, because I would want to know what you think and what you have to say on that. That's it. Take care of yourself. Drink some water. Take a deep breath. And I will see you on the flip side, baby.